and welcome to the Chey and Pav show. Teachers talking, strangely enough, teaching. And in our episode today, you've already heard the long monologue at the beginning, which was equally distributed with about 80% of Pav insights and 20% of Chey's unnecessary anecdotes. But that's usually how we roll. But now that we jump into our interview, we expect nothing but pearls of wisdom because we have Frank here from Wipebook to discuss all things Wipebook and all things um, vertical learning,
Oh,
all things thinking classroom, all things about creating spaces to allow students to make mistakes without feeling threatened. And I know, Frank, you're here, you're excited, and you really don't have a choice. If you aren't excited, I will make sure you're excited. I know one of your partners, Toby, wanted to be here, and I'm going to make a huge assumption that he's a football fan, and the games haven't gone as well as he was hoping today. And so he's not with us today, but he's with us in spirit. But we're looking forward to you telling us a little bit about your journey, a little bit about your product, and a little bit how it impacts education. And if you don't know me very well, most people don't. I tend to tell these long-worded stories, and there's a question in there. So if you can extract your own questions, you're wonderful. But I will come to a technical question here. Please introduce yourself to our audience, the origins of Whitebook, and sort of how you see sort of their origins and how you sort of came to be where you saw the impact or the importance of getting this type of product into the educational spaces.
For sure. Yeah. My name is Frank Bouchard. I'm one of the co-founders of Wipebook. Toby, as you mentioned, is the other co-founder. And yeah, the origins of Wipebook are kind of fun. It started as a class project actually when we were in university together. We're both engineers and we were doing our masters and we were taking an entrepreneurship class. And the professor at the time, the way he structured the class is just anybody that's got a cool idea, just stand up, and anybody else that doesn't have a cool idea, just like gravitate towards different people in the class that have their ideas. So I was a weird student because as an engineer, I was very poor at math because I make a lot of fine mistakes, and then I had to like scratch out all those mistakes. So I had developed like a prototype for the Wipebook, which was just like overhead transparency sheets bound together that I would take all my notes. I would do all my assignments on these like erasable sheets that I would just wipe down with a wet cloth. So I was kind of the weird guy in the class because my hands were always like full of ink because of those damn acetate markers. But lo and behold, Toby joined the group at the time, and he thought it was a cool idea. And we just tried to give it our all. We gave ourselves 6 months to really launch the idea for the Wipebook. So the Wipebook, in the sense, it's a reusable whiteboard notebook. So it's a notebook that you can reuse over and over and over again. And we also have flip charts now, and that kind of iterated over the years as we got feedback. So, like I said, we tried our best for 6 months. Couldn't really sell too many of these, and then at the 11th hour, maybe a couple weeks before the end of the 6 month term, I set up a Kickstarter campaign online, and I said, okay, maybe we could sell $10,000 worth of gear here. And lo and behold, we met that goal within 24 hours, and within 30 days, raised like $500,000 for these books. And we had no company at the time. We didn't know how to produce these in mass volume. So he was just like, okay, let's incorporate, let's do this thing for real. And yeah, that's kind of how it started. And the notebooks was our first kind of variant, the first product. It was really tailored to technical people, IT people, students in university. And then we kind of started hearing that teachers were buying these things for themselves. And then I went to a couple of school boards and school districts, and they were saying, "Hey, could you make like a really giant version? Like we waste so much paper on these anchor chart sheets." And I'm like, "Yeah, we could totally do that." So we did another Kickstarter campaign for those, and it went pretty well. Not as well as the notebooks, but the teachers just started using them profusely in their classrooms. So yeah, that's kind of how the company came to be, and we're just we're really happy with where we're at right now, and I really enjoy the educational space. I really care about the educational space, and just seeing those classrooms that are just being transformed with kids that are actually engaged and not just bored out of their minds using whiteboards is just a really fulfilling feeling.
Oh my gosh, Frank, when I go into a classroom and bring in anything that involves dry erase, they go nuts.
Yeah.
They love it. And they love the markers. They love to just be able to erase their mistakes. They love to be able to take, all of their learning and put it down on the flip charts or any dry erase surface. So this has really been a valuable a product that we are able to use in our classrooms, and it's very accessible. So I told you this before we started recording, but I'm a huge fan of the flip charts and the white books and all of the products, and I think they're great and they should be in the hands of all teachers and in every classroom.
Pav, I wanted to add that the flip chart is almost liberating for students because there's so
Mhm.
much anxiety for students when they're working on chart paper, whether the chart paper is on the desk or up on the air vertically. There's this hesitation that you have to be right in order you can put something down because there's a permanency to it, and I know that what I have seen is that students are just a little bit more liberated to sort of take a chance to put down a thought because we don't necessarily want to encourage erasing mistakes, but when you know you can erase a mistake or deviate a message, it just I find it liberating for students. It's sort of been my
Mhm.
observation. So sorry for cutting you off, but that's why they pay me $6.4 million per episode on this show.
Yeah. What else is new? So so thank you for sort of highlighting the products and telling us a little bit about the origin stories. As a teacher, I'm always thinking about, I love hearing origin stories because I'm thinking about how they can be used in the classroom, and I'm thinking to, in science and technology, we're thinking about the design thinking process and how this is so valuable for students to hear and learn about how the product came to be and how it was iterated over a period of time. And so I loved hearing that and how you started with the notebook, the white book, and then sort of developed something based on what the need was in society and with the people who were buying your products and interested in your products. So um, I want to know a little bit about the importance of innovation as an engineer, as an entrepreneur, as someone who has developed this product and has been successful with it. What is the value of innovation in education or in life in general, and why should we be putting a little bit more emphasis in this idea in innovation in general? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, the topic of innovation, I care deeply about my whole career, even before Whitebook. Just working in the educational sector in the post-secondary institution. But really, for me, innovation is all about improving, things in our daily lives, right? Just if you have a problem or you see somebody that has a problem, it's coming up with a creative solution to that problem and trying to figure out a way to help other people out. So I think our story is a great example of how innovation is not just limited to like big companies with millions of dollars. Like this could have easily been like a high school student with an erasable notebook. They just put it online and it goes viral, and you start a company that way. So for me, I really see us, in our product, and we're really being a really great example for students to say, hey, this is something that I could actually do myself. You don't need to have you don't need to create something that's super complicated, but fundamentally, if you have a problem that you're dealing with in your daily life, that first step of the design process, like empathize, right?
Yeah.
If you have that problem or somebody else has that problem and you're trying to find a solution to that problem, that's really the first step. And it doesn't need to be anything complicated, but it gets you down that path. And then little by little, you just try to get feedback and see if there's more people that have that problem. And that's how you scale and that's how you grow. For us, we were literally, I knew I had the problem personally, but we didn't know if other students had that problem of when they're doing math exercises and they're doing it on paper, especially engineers, you're doing math all the time. Are other people having those same frustrations, doing those differential equations and things like that? And it turned out that we were just like cooking pancakes in the basement of the university, trying to feed the students and getting feedback in return. And it turned out that a lot of people really liked not the wet erase because that was just a hassle, and they saw my hands totally inked up, but the dry erase version, that was the first version that we put on the Kickstarter. That made a huge difference. And the same thing with the flip charts. We went to the school districts and they gave us feedback and we iterated from there. So I think that's a little bit how innovation comes to be. And I think we have a great example of that.
Any follow up there, Pav, or can I jump into my conversation?
No, please do.
Because I know I cut you off last time.
I'll get you back. Don't worry.
That's assumed. Frank, so many nuggets in that conversation. And I love the point of innovation and accessibility to innovation. That sometimes we can be intimidated because maybe we don't feel we have the backing, or we're not connected to a big organization or within a system. But if we have a really great idea that really addresses a problem, there's a space for anyone to be an innovator. And Pav, I know you're taking your notes, and I know I'm taking my notes, and those watching on YouTube can see my book right there. I have one. I really like the fact you addressed that you become sort of the mentor text. You're the model for how maybe a student can say, you know what, a class project isn't just necessarily theoretical. I can turn a class project, a passion project, into something. And I love that part of your story at the beginning. It was a passion project. Now, were you and Toby friends beforehand, or did you become friends in that moment where your professor said, the ones with the ideas stand up? I don't know if I have ever tried that technique, but I may do this tomorrow. Those of you that have great ideas, stand up. And those of you that want to contribute and thus expand and extend your own great ideas, let's go into that space and be inspired. Were you connected beforehand in any way, or was that the moment where you connected? And then I want to talk a little bit in extension here, because you know what, we know you had a little bit of success on Dragon's Den. And Pav and I now decide that after this conversation, we're going to go, because one of us is going to stand up because we have a great idea. And we are going to use all the insights you give here about how you got onto Dragon's Den and how you were successful to market our own great idea. And that being a little tongue in cheek. But you had this wonderful experience. And I think I hope it connects back into being sort of the young entrepreneur, not being connected. What was the Dragon's Den experience like? How did it manifest? And that original question between you and Toby, how did that connection come?
Yeah, I mean, Toby and I, we kind of knew each other from our courses. The master's was just like a 1 year course. He was kind of doing it part time. I was doing it part time as well, just a couple of courses per term while we were working full time. And like you said, I was using my courses to just follow through and see if this idea could develop. So he worked in patents, and I remember even before that entrepreneurship class reaching out to him saying, "Hey, like, can we talk about patents? Can we figure out how this whole thing works?" So we had interacted a little bit before, but really the first time we really truly worked together was through that entrepreneurship course. And with respect to the Dragon's Den, I mean, since we had such a great success story on Kickstarter, it just turned out that a month after or 2 months after they were kind of doing the auditions for all the Dragon's Den episodes, they kind of go on all the major cities, and we're based out of Ottawa. So, they were kind of interviewing people, and it was pretty funny to see all kinds of different characters, pitch their crazy ideas. One of the people that were there were two women with their little chihuahua that were pitching a show of them drinking wine with their chihuahua. I don't know what it was, but they turned out they actually ended up on the show. Funny enough, but yeah, you go and you pitch your idea, and then because we had a great story on Kickstarter, they just said, "Hey, holy crap, this is awesome!" So we went down to Toronto. They film at the CBC headquarters downtown Toronto. And they try to psych you out. They put you in a back little room watching old reruns of Dragon's Den episodes, the ones where everybody gets shredded, because they just want you on your nerves. And then they kind of say, "Hey, you're up," and they open the door, and they just say, "Follow the little white line," and you don't know what's going on. But if you've seen the show before, Shark Tank or the equivalent, you walk down the stairs or you walk through, and then you see like 20 cameras on you because they're capturing every angle. In that moment, you realize, if I screw this up, I'm done. I'm dead. But they record you for like an hour, and you try your best and you pitch your idea, and it's pretty nerve wracking. And, I was nervous as hell. My leg was just like, twitching, and I was just like, I was really nervous, and Toby was like, "Frank is never nervous," and like his leg, I could see it just twitch in the corner there. So, but yeah, we did end up getting a deal with Arlene. The deal fell through at the end of the day. We were a couple of other founders at the beginning, and we had a falling out, and that kind of like terminated the deal. But it was a really great experience to kind of initially work with Arlene, and she's the one who said, "Hey, you guys should really try big box retail," and that's how we started going selling our products in Walmart, Staples, and Costco, which we don't anymore because those are big players, and it's not always cost effective to deal with the big guys. So selling direct to school districts has always been something that has, worked better for us personally. But yeah, that's how kind of Dragon's Den went, and it was a really, really fun experience.
Dragon's Den is always it's fun to watch, and it's really cool to hear the behind the scenes and sort of what that process is like and how it works. But Dragon's Den is a lot of fun to do in school, and I remember doing it one year with a group that I had in science, and so we had to pitch ideas, and so we went through the design process, and we learned about all of the parts of it, and we had to come up with our ideas and then pitch those ideas, and it really is nerve-wracking, and that's when you see sort of all of the imagination and creativity that exists in schools and in people. And so I really love that story that you shared, and the process of Whitebook kind of going through the design thinking process and making it onto Dragon's Den, because I hope that it inspires some students to just do it. I mean, it's an
100%.
idea. It's an idea. You started a Kickstarter, and you got your backing that you needed, the capital that was required to get started. And this is accessible stuff. As Chey mentioned before, this is something that kids can do, that students can do. And I know, and I have seen, and I have heard of students and their incredible ideas in school. So, if this is an episode that we're listening to with students, whoever is out there listening, please encourage them to participate and run a Dragon's Den like a culmination in your class, because it's so fun, and it's great for students to kind of get involved in that. And so, I know we've talked about the products and the product line before, but I'm thinking about me as a teacher, and if there are teachers listening, well, I assume that there are teachers listening. um, tell us a little bit about how these products can be used for students, or if you are a student, how they're going to be useful for you. And I, as a teacher, and I can speak for myself, we use the flip charts all the time in our classrooms, but there are a lot of other products, and so we'd love to hear about some of the other products and how we can use them in the classroom.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we can start with the flip charts. The flip charts are really just anchor chart sheets that have graph on one side, blank on the other. So they're reversible. And you could just like take a pad of these flip charts and take all the sheets and put them all over the walls. And when you're done, you can put them all back together. And it's just a really great collaborative tool. I mean, we've seen students use them in the thinking classrooms framework and math classrooms to collaborate and solve problems together. We've seen them used on tabletops where they have little robots, like line drawing robots, where they have dry erase markers, and they're actually like typing in the graph calculator, like little vector points and things like that, and having little paths drawn all over the place. So I think the flip charts is a really great collaborative tool. It's a visual tool. So when you have a lot of different students together, it's a surface to just work on. And like you guys mentioned before, I mean, students, like, they try more on a dry erase surface. I don't know what it is. It's just a freeing medium. You don't feel like you're stuck with whatever first idea you had. You can iterate through that problem and not worry about it being totally permanent. So the flip charts is really great for that. And then we have more of our notebook lines and our workbook lines. So the notebook lines is more like your personal whiteboard at your fingertips, or your reusable notebook. So really, this is think of a notebook with dry erase pages. And you can use a variety of different markers. So you could use like a dry erase marker if you just want like a surface to iterate or problem solve. But we also have like special markers that are semi-permanent. So if you really want to use it like a notebook or an organization tool, especially when you're trying to organize, you don't always write things down perfectly the first time around. This is actually why I was using it in my classrooms when I was taking notes, because sometimes you just want to erase something really quickly and iterate what your notes are going to be. Or if you have a to-do list, you can just check off all the different items or just erase it, wipe it clean. So it's really a notebook that's eco-friendly. It's reusable. You feel like you're not using that notebook and throwing in the garbage after you're done. So it really is a feel-good kind of organization tool and reusable notebook. And then our workbooks are more of the the surface for personal work in the classroom for each student. So really, it's one sheet essentially of a smaller sheet of the dry erase film that students can hole punch and keep in their binders. And when it comes time to do personal type of work, they could pull it out, work problems out at their desk with a dry erase marker. So, and all of our products, the nice thing about it is also compatible with our Wipebook Scan app. So, you might be thinking, well, how do I save students' work for assessment afterwards, right? Well, it's compatible with our app, but also, Google's native apps and Dropbox apps or OneDrive apps. So it'll just automatically crop the edges of whatever you have, and it'll save it directly to the cloud, so that if you do want to do assessment down the line, you can actually save all the students' work and kind of keep it for later, and then have a track record. And sometimes sometimes teachers, what they'll do is also save it and then project it at the front of the class, and then kind of showcase what all the different students have been doing together, so that you do have that kind of digital way where you can just flip through in a nice kind of way and save everything there. So that's kind of a good overview of our products. I mean, some, especially in our notebooks, we have different, small ones, pocket size ones, medium ones, big ones, some with graph pages, line pages, depending on all the different types of activities that you can do. But that's really kind of a good overview of all of our products.
That's a great response. Frank, I was taking some notes both on my Wipebook and on my question sheet. One thing I was thinking about is sometimes when teachers are planning lessons, sometimes lessons are your A+ lessons, and sometimes they're your B- lessons. And I think of teachers sometimes being a hesitancy to maybe put up a flip chart because like I just, it's not necessary for a flip chart, or I don't want to amass all the paper, or I don't want to have to deal with this. The simplicity of it, almost, I used the word already, I've maybe overused it, Pav. The liberation for the teacher, say maybe my hesitancy, even on a simple notion, my hesitancy to use my chart paper to stick it up all over the place is eliminated, because I can use these huge, Pav, you and I think have probably had the most successes with the huge charts just all over the room, because you do get so used to using them as anchor charts, spaces for students to work collaboratively. And I love you touched, based on Frank, that component of being able to save it really quickly and easily, having it upload to Drive, and it becoming an assessment piece, and it becoming a piece of evidence that, yes, it's flexible. You can change it in the moment, but you can still capture those moments, and you can almost capture sort of the stage 1, the stage 3, the stage 4. So you can see how that thinking process may change, and how idea number 3 that was sort of was creating a pathway for you, you deviated from later. So I love those components. Now, Pav, you and I have been using whiteboards for quite some time. When we were getting lined up for this interview, it reminded me that maybe 12 or 13 years ago, before you were the science teacher at our school, the science teacher had these huge whiteboards, probably not a chart paper size, but not a piece of paper size either. And she was like, I got to get rid of these. I said, oh, I want those. I want those. And we grabbed them, and they've worn out. And I said, this is the extension of this. This is how you take something like a whiteboard that I was happy using 10 years ago, and then I get excited to say, this is expanding. This is creating something a little bit more permanent. And I love that. And I'm going to reach away from the mic for a second.
Oh.
Because, of course, being introduced, the thinking classroom was part of that for us. And so when we sort of came across your product, we had sort of, I think, some foundational use of whiteboards, but nothing quite as great as your product and as flip charts. And we came across it through the thinking classroom. And the thinking classroom, I think, Pav, maybe opened up my eyes more to this than you. Maybe you're already doing this, so I don't want to put this into your space, but I hadn't really thought of the classroom as a vertical space. And your math program shifted on this idea of vertical learning, but your flip charts were paramount to that. And so when maybe you reflect on this, maybe you haven't reflected on this, how do you see sort of teaching philosophies, teaching pedagogies, room setups changing through this product that you have, and how it's changing the way maybe teachers and students interact? So Pav and I can attest that the way we're setting up our spaces has altered. Your product's not simply a product. It's a product that allows me to teach in a different way that I've been teaching before, and I see results. And I think part of the thinking classroom is about displaying thinking in a comfortable way. And the flip chart is the whiteboard flip chart is perfect for that, because it allows students to work in that sort of vertical space, the standing up space, and not feel that they are bound by every single mark they make. And I think I'm just repeating what I said at the beginning, but good teachers repeat things 17,000 different ways. So, Frank, if you could talk on that to guide us a little bit, we would love to hear your insights on how you think the Wipebook product is sort of revolutionizing how teachers can set up their learning spaces.
Yeah, 100%. I think it was really good synergy originally. I think Peter's thinking classroom framework is amazing. It just, takes a class of students that would not normally be engaged or be zoning out and just gets them going in a social kind of environment. And I think one of the big barriers for that framework historically is that if you wanted to do it, you needed to invest significant funds in your classroom to get your district or find a budget to install whiteboards all over the place. And, you've probably heard the story of teachers, going to Home Depot, buying the melamine board or the shower board, sawing it themselves. It was just a complete hassle, right? To just set up a classroom in a cheap kind of way to get students working on a whiteboard. And I think our product just, because it's paper, it just made it that much easier to just try out the framework. I mean, there's tons of frameworks out there and new teaching practices all the time. And it's often, if the barrier to try something new is that much higher, then you're probably not going to jump in with 2 feet and try it right away if you're going to blow your whole budget for the year on setting up your classroom. But in this context, I mean, the Thinking Classrooms framework is a phenomenal framework, and now we have a tool, the Wipebook flip charts, that just allows any teacher at a reasonable price to just set up a classroom full of whiteboards and to try it out. And I really recommend the book. The book has been out, I think, for a year or two now. And every teacher I've spoken to speaks, wonders about the book. So I highly recommend it. But yeah, like our products just work hand in hand with that product. I mean, you could historically write on a window or something like that. Right. But even windows, like students were even hesitant to write on a window and you couldn't see it that well. Or writing on desks wasn't actually vertical, it was like down. So I think our products really fit that nice, accessibility niche, especially for teachers that don't always have the biggest budgets, to provide those educational experiences to students.
Yeah, and that's every teacher, Frank. I have been there where I have tried to, get the whiteboards, and I've purchased mini whiteboards in the classroom, and they just really allow for students to display their thinking in a non-threatening way, and it's even just, holding it up to share their answer rather than putting their hand up to speak out in front of the class, right? So write their answer on there. Like the students were using it in ways that I didn't think that they were going to be using a dry erase surface. And so I think you hit the nail on the head when you mentioned, how accessible these are, because they are paper and you can put them up and they're good quality and they don't leave streaks when you erase them. And they're just everything that I've wanted in a dry erase surface, and they're easy to put up. Like, they're not heavy, they're not going to fall down. So they really are that great. And the icing on the cake for me has really been being able to take a picture using the Scan app and save it in a folder. You get the option of saving it in several different spaces. And so you have something that's right there. And then it just makes the assessment so much easier. So you're observing what students are doing. And Peter Liljedahl's the design thinking is actually the perfect space for us to try this out and use it and put it to the test, and just, make it your math classroom or whatever classroom that you have, whatever subject, just like the best space for students to try out the things that they want to try out but not make permanent. So as we've mentioned all of this so many different times over the course of the episode. So if it's not clear yet, accessibility is just really key with the product. And speaking of product, we want to know what else you've got coming down the line. Is there anything else that, or can we look forward to some new products? Are we looking forward to something different? We want to hear from you. Are you excited about what's coming down the line from Wipebook?
Yeah, I mean, we're engineers by nature, so we love making products. The problem is, in the early days, we just permutating so many different sizes and all kinds of stuff. So we actually made a conscious decision to just focus on a limited number of products and just make sure that those products work really, really well. So we're constantly just like gaining feedback from teachers and just making slight improvements. I think we've gotten some feedback about the app, for example, that the app could definitely be better and improve. So we definitely have plans to actually make it even easier to use and frictionless for teachers that want to start using in their classrooms. So those are just like the little things that we're doing. I don't think we'll have like any completely new radical products in the next, little bit, but we're definitely just trying to make subtle improvements to our existing line of products just so that they meet the expectations of teachers and that teachers can actually use them as they thought they were going to use them. So maybe some of the like we have heavy duty sheets which are like more durable. So we may have some products that actually have those more heavy duty paper sheets involved or encompassed or included in them. Like we just released recently some mini heavy duty flip charts on our website. Those were really more for coaches that actually are on the road that want something to bring all over the place that doesn't get torn really easily. That's a new product that we recently came up with in the last, I think, couple of months or so, and just released it. So I think that's probably like the scope of our products right now, just trying to make them as awesome as possible.
Pav, I think that aligns a lot with when we teach. Sometimes you just take on too much or you ask too much of students. And I know I've always been never make anything more than three. If I'm assigning questions, I assign three. If I got a writing prompts, I've got three different prompts. It's just because you almost lose focus when there's so much going on.
It gets overwhelming.
Yeah, so it reminds me of my baseball swing because no episode's complete without a silly sports analogy to understand sport. That I'm only looking for middle in, and I'm just not going to swing for it. Frank, you and Toby, it was the University of Ottawa, correct?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I won't reference that I'm a Carleton University graduate or the.
Oh, geez.
Although my teaching certificate's from the University of Ottawa, but I won't flash my Carleton University tattoo.
That's okay.
For my long sports career that I had there, and that was just
Toby's a grad from Carleton as well, so he won't mind. He won't mind. Yeah, he's a dual grad, so
we have a similar path then.
There we go.
I was going to add the one little anecdote when I was thinking about how do students respond to the Wipebook, and I think one of the things I use and I'll flash it on the screen here. The mini Wipebook is when I'm walking around is to give examples. And I used to just carry endless stickies with me. And I still will carry stickies in my pocket, but this becomes as convenient as having a pack of stickies on you. And you walk around and you're helping and you'll do an example for a student. And often I'll leave the Wipebook and I'll come back and I'll grab it. And it was telling for me how it was resonating because teachers like, where do you find the evidence to know how something's landing? And I was walking around and I was giving some support. And the student said, Mr. Chey, do you have your Wipebook here today? And they were that was their cue. That's what they were looking for. So they were receptive to that feedback in that space because you could provide the example for them. I would leave it with them, leave the pen, and they would play around with it themselves. And so you sort of think as a teacher, as a tool, for me, it's almost replaced that really simplistic sticky note. And my evidence for how it was landing well is when students really ask, do you have it today? Can I borrow it for a little bit? And I always felt comfortable to write an example and leave it. And I said, I'll do a loop and I'll come back. And you could see students diving into that space to mark it up and then come back to their own work. And that was just one little anecdote I wanted to share, which I'm sure we've already spoken about in our intro before the interview, but any follow-ups there, Pav?
No, it's great. Teachers are loving the product and your story is phenomenal. And I think it's great for teachers to hear, but also I think more importantly for students to hear, because it is a success story that can be replicated, with whatever innovations that students come up with. And Chey and myself are always pushing innovation in our spaces. And I think that our podcast success has sort of led to that and reinforced the importance of innovating. And then, of course, iterating and reiterating what we are doing in that space. And so getting the feedback, I think, is really important from, the people who are actually using the product, and where can we make our products better and more useful for the people who are buying them. I think that that's such a great lesson to sort of take with us and take from this conversation. So thank you so much, Frank, for sharing all of that with us and for sharing more about Wipebook and your origin stories and where you come from and what we're doing and why we're so useful in education. Did you have anything else to sort of wrap up with, or any last words before we?
No, I guess just a little final thought, just in terms of, how our idea came to be and how, it could be impactful for students. I think the big difference for us was that, when we took that class, the teacher actually, or the professor actually said, no, this is a real product that you will be developing. And I think that mindset of it being a real thing versus just a thing for fun is actually something that teachers should recognize, that these ideas could be something real, and make your students recognize that, these ideas that you're coming up with, it's not just for the sake of the assignment or the activity. You like, think of something you really care about or passionate about that you may want to work on even after this assignment is done, because I think that's how you'll get students engaged and finding their own little ideas that they want to work on. And I think that made a huge difference for us when we came up with the product. We started it off because it was a real thing that we were trying for real. So just a little tidbit there in terms of the student piece for something that teachers should really keep in mind if they're doing a Dragon's Den type of thing
Yes.
in their classroom.
It's authenticity, right? This is how we're
Exactly.
actually going to be able to make differences in the real world. And so the closer we can get to the authentic experience, whether it's through the innovation in the classroom or whatever it is that we're doing in the classroom, it'll be more meaningful in the end. So thank
Absolutely.
you for sharing that final thought. Anything to add, Chey?
I'm getting ready to make my Dragon's Den proposal. Chihuahua and wine, I think, is a hot topic to build from. Frank, thanks for coming in, gifting us your wisdoms, gifting us your story, gifting us your time, and of course supporting the Chey and Pav show, because of course we have our raffle that's going with this episode, as you've also supported all of our podcast presentations, and so we're really thankful for all that support. And really, I think we love you gifting us this moment to humanize this sort of collaboration and this partnership, and we hope that this episode, you feel that your voice has been said and your story has been amplified, and we thank you for gifting us your time on the Chey and
Yeah,
Pav show.
happy to join, and it was a great conversation tonight.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Frank.
All right, have a good one.